Hello everyone, my name is Christian Eschbach, and welcome to another one of my album reviews. Hey everyone, for this review I thought I would get into the first disc of the Geezer Butler Manipulation of the Mind, the complete collection set. Disc 1 is Plastic Planet. Interestingly enough, I remember when this album got released, sort of. I remember seeing it in the stores. I remember seeing that it was Geezer. I remember being tempted to pick it up, but not knowing anything about it. And part of me is glad I didn't pick it up at the time, and I picked it up as this cool set, which I have talked about before in my do's and don'ts of album collections. And one of my reasons for having issues with this album is it's definitely very dated. Funny enough, I've got a Creed album in with this at the same time, and the Creed album is not far off. It's not like sound wise, so it's got a very late 90s kind of vibe and sound to it. There's some really good musically. It ranges between basic metal and some really cool riffing. Lyrically, it's got some depth to it. Vocally, there's a little too much yelling and screaming for me. I'm not big on the yelling and screaming. Sometimes it works to a degree. When it's overdone, I kind of tune out a little bit. There's 11 songs on this album, okay? So we've got Catatonic Eclipse. I love the song names, by the way. It's some of the coolest song names I've heard in a while. Catatonic Eclipse, Drive-By Shooting. That one's not a great name, but you know. Giving Up the Ghosts, Plastic Planet, The Invisible, Seance Fiction, House of Clouds, Detective 27, X13, Cyclone, and Cycle of 60. Catatonic Eclipse starts out the album decently. Drive-By Shooting is decent when I'm listening to the album, but if I'm not paying attention or if I'm in the middle of doing something, I don't really notice it so much. It's just background music. Giving Up the Ghost, I really kind of got into and enjoyed. I thought it was a decent enough track. Plastic Planet, considering it's the title track of the album, this one I found a little bit disappointing. It just didn't do much for me the whole way around. A little too screamy, maybe. The music didn't do much for me either. It was just kind of eh. The Invisible kind of follows that up with me going kind of, not bad, but not anything special. Seance Fiction, same thing. Not anything bad, but nothing special. House of Clouds, kind of in the same realm, So at this point, this whole album's been kind of in the same realm where, with the exception of Plastic Planet, I don't mind the album. It's good, background music, but it's not anything that I'm going out of my way to really listen to. It's not an album I'm going to go through on. Then I hit Detective 27, and this is the first song that I really kind of dig off this album. I might, when I'm done looking at this whole collection, put together, my top 10 for this collection or something like that. I'm thinking about doing that for a few of these. And Detective 27 is really kind of fun. I actually kind of enjoyed Detective 27, and I would put it on a collection. Lyrically, it's nothing special, but it's simple. It's a nice, fun track to kind of follow. And the music's just kind of there. And there's not a lot of screaming on this one. It's actually like a really kind of sung kind of song. X13 follows that up, kind of in the same vein. Really kind of dig on X13. And then Cyclone, not bad while I'm listening to it, don't think of it otherwise. And Cycle of 60 is a great way to close out the album, but once again, nothing I'm overly impressed by. Um, what hurts this album for me is it reminds me a lot of kind of everything else that came out at that time. It was funny because when I put this one in the, I was playing Catan, whatever way, C-A-T-A, I'm going to say Catan. I was playing Catan, and it was myself, Tracy, Sean, and Drucifer. And threw background music on. This was one of the albums I threw on in the background, and Drew looks at me and he goes, "What the hell? When did you get Fear Factory?" And I'm like, "Not Fear Factory." And then I told him what it was. He's like, "Oh, okay." But it's the lead vocalist from Fear Factory, so he's kind of right on there. Let me see if I can pull out the information on the musicians here while we're talking about this. Now, this does, from my limited knowledge of Fear Factory, it does have a very Fear Factory sound to it. It reminds me a lot of the industrial metal-y kind of bands of that time. You got Fear Factory, I want to say Manson to an extent, Zombie when he first went solo to an extent. None of that info is there. Let's see. There's what I would say is if you like that kind of industrial, kind of metal sound of the late 90s, this is something worth totally checking out. And if I had, aside from the vocals, if the vocals were done differently, less screaming, less yelling, I would really dig on this album a lot more, but it would still be, it's like kind of half generic, half original, and it's on every song. You got some very generic kind of riffing, and then it goes into these great instrumental kind of breaks, or great melodic breaks, or these great bridges, or great, like there's chunks and sections that are fantastic, and chunks and sections that are just kind of typical. So music was Geezer Butler and Pedro House, with the lyrics by Butler, and the album came out in '95 originally, and I don't have a listing for which musicians were on this album. It may have just been the two of them. I don't know. It does not say, even in this book here that comes with this set. There's just basically pictures on the inside and whatnot. So you can see various people, but I couldn't tell you who the various people were. I'm assuming those are the three dudes right there that worked on all the albums, but I'm sorry, I don't know. It may have even changed from album to album because there's those. So I'm sorry, I don't know who worked on this. I don't have my computer in front of me. I'm going to move on from there, and I'm going to finish apologizing. The whole way around, Plastic Planet's not a bad album. If I were to go back to '95 and pick it up, I'd actually be upset that it didn't get more airplay and wasn't more popular than it was, because it really is a good album, and compared to a lot of other stuff that was coming out in around '95, it really was pretty decent. In the metal scene, metal was in that weird spot in '95, '96, '97, going in through there, and this would have been really good. It would have been something definitely different, and my theories on why it didn't get promoted the way it should have, or didn't get pushed the way it should have, or didn't get the acknowledgement it should have back in '95 is going to be due to the fact that there was a lot of pressure being put down for Black Sabbath to get back together because this would have been after I think they did the live album. I could be wrong on that one. It's definitely after Ozzy came back out of retirement, and '95. That would have been what, around the Osmosis album, I believe. Actually, let's take a quick look. I've got it right here. Yeah, 1995, the Osmosis album. So I really shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do this and say, yeah, I think Sharon may have had something to do with it just a little bit, with it not getting the push that it deserved, because, you know, Ozzy was back out of retirement with the Osmosis album, and, you know, the Geezer album comes out. And I'm going to be honest, going between the two of them, I'd probably listen to Osmosis more often because I enjoy the vocals. But I think the music overall is probably better on Plastic Planet. Anyways, folks, those are my thoughts, my opinions. Let me know what you think. I will be getting into the rest of this set. There are 2 more full albums, and there's a bonus disc, and I'm going to cover the bonus disc as its own separate disc. So I got 3 more reviews coming to do out this set, and that'll help complete out this set. I'm also working my way through a couple other sets as well. If you haven't been able to tell, there's the Alan Parsons Project set, and there is the what is that other band? Bad Company set that I'm working through. Get through those, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. All right, so if you could do me a favor, hit the like button, the subscribe button, the little bell for notifications. That helps out both me and you. There are comments below. Drop me a line. Let me know what you think about this album. Am I being too harsh? Am I not being harsh enough? You know how that goes. There's also, on your way down the comments in the description, you will see a link to the TWA, that is the Trampoline Wrestling Association. Love it. You gotta check it out. It's a really good, fun time. There is a link to the Howling Odyssey, which is music that I have written, both past and present, which will also include Project 0 Hour Prototype, which I have mentioned a lot throughout my reviews and my confessions and whatnot. And there is a link to my Patreon, which I am working on putting a lot of music into that you can go into to download, along with some other stuff. All right, folks. Peace, love, take care.